Welcome back, children. I hope you all have completed your homework. Now let's recall what we have learned in the previous session. We have learned reproduction of plants by seeds. That means all flowering plants reproduce from seeds. External and internal structure of a seed. Seed germination and conditions for seed to germinate. Seed dispersal and its ways of dispersal. So children, we have learned that all flowering plants reproduce from seeds. But what about non-flowering plants? First of all, tell me, do you know what are non-flowering plants? Yes, non-flowering plants are those plants which do not bear flowers. For example, fern, mosses, etc. So, how will they reproduce? They also need to be reproduced now. Though they do not have flowers, they do not form seeds. So, how they will reproduce? Yes, they will reproduce from spores. Now, you must be wondering, what are spores? Spores are small, spherical and light structures which help in reproduction. They are very light. They are so tiny and small, they are also known as microscopic structures. So they can easily flow in the various directions. So now you understood what are spores? Spores are small, spherical and light structure. Reproduction in moths and mushroom take from spores. Can you see these light structures? These are spores. So they are very tiny and light, so they can easily flow in the various directions. Now children, besides growing from a crops, reproduction also take place from the different parts of the plant. Different parts of plants means roots, stems, leaves. So these parts are called the vegetative parts of the plant. And when the reproduction take place from these vegetative parts, then it is called the vegetative propagation. So plant parts like roots, stems, buds and leaves are known as vegetative parts of a plant. When plants reproduce with the help of their body parts such as roots, stems and leaves and not through the seeds, it is called vegetative propagation. Now we will learn one by one the reproduction from all these parts. Now first, reproduction from the roots. As you all know the examples of roots. What are they? Yes, carrot, turnip, radish, sweet potato. These all are the examples of roots. And children, can you see these pictures now? These pictures are of roots. So these all are swollen. Now why they are swollen? Because they stored food inside them. As they stored food inside them, so they are called the tuberous root. And when these roots are planted in the soil, they give rise to a new plant. Now let's take one example. Can you see this carrot? When you cut the top part of the carrot and you have to remove its leaf, what you have to do? You have to cut the top part of the carrot and you have to remove its leaves. Then you have to place the carrot in the soil in such way that its leafy side is little above the soil, and then you have to water it regularly. What changes will take place? You will see that aerial shoots. See, you can see in this picture the cut piece planted in the soil grows the aerial shoot. You can see this aerial shoot is growing. Now, so we can say that the leaves growing from the top part of the carrot. Now, next is reproduction by the stem. For example, onion, ginger, potato. All these are underground stems, and they also, when planted in the soil, they give rise to a new plant, and they also store food inside them. See this part? Can you see this part? These are the birds. See, and when these are planted in the soil, they give rise to a new plant. Let's take one example. We will take an example of potato. Now what you can see? See in this picture? Now you can see the picture, observe its surface. You can see the eye. This portion, this is called the eye. Now what you have to do, you have to spread some cotton in a tray and wet it. Means you have to put the water on the cotton. Then you have to place the potato on the cotton and leave it for 3 to 4 days. Now what changes will take place in the potato? You will see some aerial shoots are growing on the eye. And when this placed in the soil, it will give rise to a new plant. So any potato bearing the eye will give rise to a new plant. Reproduction by the stem cutting. In this, children, what happens when you cut a small piece of the stem, and then you, after cutting the piece of stem from the parent plant, what you have to do? You have to place in the soil. After planting in the soil, what you will observe? You will observe that root develops and the new plant will also grow. For example, the rose. If you will cut, see, this rose plant, if you cut a small part of the stem from the rose and you will plant it in the soil, see, root develops, and this only will give rise to a new plant. Not only rose, many other plants also can be planted by the stem cutting. What are they? They are money plant, rose, sugarcane, cactus, hibiscus and bougainvillea. All these parts can be grown from the stem cutting. Now next is reproduction by the leaves. The reproduction by leaves in bryophyte. This is the leaf of bryophyte. Now what you can see in this picture, children? Yeah, you will see the small plants on the margin of the leaves. In this, what happens? On the margin of the leaf, small birds are there. And when these birds develop into the plantlets, then what happens? When this leaf falls, these plantlets separated from the leaves and they give rise to the new plant when the conditions are favorable. So this way the reproduction takes place by the leaves also. So in this way, children, we have learned the reproduction by the stem, reproduction by the roots, reproduction by the leaves. Now children, there is many advantages also by growing the plant through the vegetative propagation. What are they? See, it is faster, cheaper, easier method of growing the plants. Also the new plants grown are the exact copies of the parent plant. So some plant also grow from the vegetative propagation. Now children, tell me, we all eat food now? Yes, we all eat food. So what are the source of food? Yes, plants are the major source of food. Or we can also say that we directly or indirectly depend on the plants. So children, when plants are grown in the large quantity, by whom? Yes, by farmers. For what? For the food or other useful quantities. Then these are called the crops. So what are crops? Crops are the plants which are grown in the large number in field by farmer. For food, they are called the crops. For example, fiber crop like cotton, jute, oil producing plants For example, sunflower oil, mustard oil, food crops like wheat and grain. All these are the crops. So, children, tell me one thing. You are wearing the clothes according to the climatic conditions? Yes. In summer season, you are wearing the light cotton clothes. In winter season, you are wearing the woolen clothes. Are you wearing the sweater and jackets in the summer season? No. Same way, crops are also depend on the seasons. On the basis of that, there are two types of crops. That means, on the basis of the climatic condition, there are two types of crops, that are Rabi crops and the Kharif crops. Rabi crops are those crops which are grown in the winter season from the month of November to April. In this season, these Rabi crops are grown. Second is Kharif crop. These crops are those crops. So Kharif crops are those crops which are grown in the summer season. And in which month? From June to October. For example, rice, maize are the Kharif crops. Wheat, mustard, they are the Rabi crops. Now children, tell me one thing. When we are growing the crops, farmer when grows the crop, they keep many things in the mind so that their healthy crops are grown, because they have to feed the entire population of the world. So the various stages of the growing the crops are plowing the field, selection and sowing the seeds, addition of manure and fertilizers, irrigation, crop protection, harvesting, storage. Now first is plowing the field. As you all know, plants need soil to grow. So first preparation for growing the plant is that we have to prepare the soil, and it is called the plowing. Now you can see this picture. Farmer plowing the field through the animals, and here he is using the tractor for plowing the field. Now question arises, why the farmers are plowing the field? What are the advantages of plowing the field? So it turns over the upper layer of the soil. It means when they are plowing the field, they are turning the up and down the soil so that the fresh nutrients can come to the surface. Sometimes children, some unwanted plants are also grown with the crops, and that is very necessary to remove that unwanted or undesirable plants, because if they are not removed, they will compete for the sunlight, nutrients. So it is very necessary to remove that crops. It helps in burying the weeds and the remains of previous crops. Now here a new word arises, weeds. Now you must be wondering, what are weeds? Weeds are that undesirable plants which are grown with the crops. So it is very necessary to remove them. It aerates the soil. Now what do you understand by aerates the soil? It means it loosens the soil so that it allows the air and water to enter into the soil, and so it aerates the soil and allows it to hold the moisture. Now second stage is selection and sowing. For the farmer, it is very necessary to choose the good quality of the seed and sow in the field. So because the good quality of seed they will choose, so they will get the good and healthy crops. So sowing is the process of planting the healthy seeds. Now next step is addition of manure and fertilizer. Now in this picture you can see that farmer is adding the manure and fertilizer. Why they are adding manure and fertilizer? Because they are rich in minerals and also for the better growth of crops. Now you might be thinking, what are manures and what are fertilizers? So what are manure? Manure are natural substance. They are the natural substance made from the dead and decaying of the plants or from the animal waste. And this children manure is prepared in the field only by the farmer itself. Now what are fertilizers? Fertilizers are the man-made substance. Fertilizers are the sort of chemicals which they are spraying in the field for the better growth of crop. But excessive amount of fertilizer should not be sprayed because it will make the soil less fertile. Whatever is required, that much fertilizers should be sprayed in the field, or that much fertilizer should be added in the field for the better growth of crops. And these fertilizers are prepared in the industries. So you can differentiate also. What is the differentiate? So you can also write what is the difference between manure and fertilizer. So farmers water the plant at the right time with the right amount of water. This is called the irrigation. Now next step is what? Crop protection. When the seeds germinate and seedling comes out, so for the farmer it is very important to protect the crops. From what they have to protect the crops? From green, from mice, rats and various animals. It is very necessary to protect their crops from them. So what are the steps they are taking? They are creating the fence around their field so that they can protect the crops from the herbivorous animals. That means plant-eating animals. As the crop grows, it needs to be protected from herbivorous animals. This is done by creating a fence around the field. Now besides this, pests are also there. Pest means rat, mice and insect. They also harm the crops. So farmers, what farmers are doing? They are using different types of pesticides to kill the pest. As earlier also I told you, they are removing the unwanted plants. Either that are called weeds, and removal of these weeds are called weeding. And now how they are removing that weeds? Either by the hand or they are using a chemical called the weedicides. So to remove these weeds, they are spraying the chemical called the weedicides. So weeds are removed regularly. The removal of weeds is called the weeding. This is necessary as weeds compete with the main crop for space, nutrients, water and sunlight. That means they will struggle for the sunlight, air and warmth with the crops. The main crops which farmers are growing in the field, they will not get enough sunlight if these weeds are not removed. And weeds can be removed by pulling them out by the hand or by spraying chemicals called weedicides. Next, when the crops are mature, that means when crop is ripe, it is ready to cut. Then this step is called the harvesting. The process of cutting and collecting the mature crop is called the harvesting. As you can see in this picture also, you see the crops are ripe and farmer is cutting. Now lastly children, when the farmers collect the crops, that means after harvesting, farmers are storing the crops like wheat, rice, maize in the godown, and that is called the storage. So that why they are storing? So that they cannot be spoiled by the moisture or eaten by the rats and mice. So these are the various steps which our farmers. So these are the various stages of growing the crops, and the practicing of growing the crops on a large scale is called the agriculture. Now children, here your chapter is over. Now let's recall what we have learned in this session. We have learned about the reproduction taking place from the spores, from the various vegetative parts, that is roots, stems, leaves, and we have studied the advantages of vegetative propagation. We have studied, and what else we have learned? Yes, we have learned crops, different stages of growing the crops. So here I am concluding my session by giving you this homework. Now what is the homework? You have to write in your rough copy. Homework is, what is the difference between manure and fertilizers? You have to write the difference, like you write one definition, you write where it is prepared. Second, define weeds. What are the different stages for growing a healthy crop? Here only you have to write the names or stages for growing the crops. So children, again read the chapter, learn all difficult terms and learn the exercises with all the question answers. So take care, remain safe, thank you.